India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, European leaders join Zelenskyy for White House talks with Trump. Zelenskyy hails historic US offer of security guarantees for Ukraine. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to arrive in New Delhi today for key talks with his Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. And in tennis, world number one Jannik Sinner to face Carlos Alcaraz in the final of Cincinnati Open. Days after US-Russia talks in Alaska, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Monday. This will be Zelensky's second visit to the White House, with the daunting task of reversing the damage done to Ukraine's security prospects by Friday's Trump-Putin summit in Alaska. However, Zelenskyy will not be alone, as he was on his first trip to the White House in February. European leaders will join Ukrainian president for talks. One of the key items on Zelenskyy's agenda in the meeting is securing solid security guarantees from the US leader, saying something US officials say is a real possibility after months of downplaying the potential. Zelenskyy, who has long expressed the desire to join NATO or to receive meaningful security guarantees from Washington and Europe's coalition of the willing, said the issue will be upfront when he meets with Trump. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy arrived in Washington on Sunday to hold talks with the US President. Zelenskyy, upon his arrival in Washington, expressed hope that the joint strength with the US and European counterparts will compel Russia to peace. The Ukrainian president, in a social media post, thanked the US President for the invitation. He said, and I quote him, "We all share a strong desire to end this war quickly and reliably," and I unquote. US President Donald Trump late on Sunday said that Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskyy could choose to end the conflict with Russia almost immediately, but retaking Crimea or joining NATO are off the table. On the eve of White House meeting with Ukrainian President and European leaders, Trump in a social media post said, and I quote him, "President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. No getting back Obama given Crimea 12 years ago without a shot being fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change." British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is also travelling to Washington for meetings with US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and also other European leaders on Monday. According to the statement issued by UK Prime Minister's office on Sunday, at the meeting that will take place at the White House, UK Prime Minister, along with other European partners, stands ready to support this next phase of further talks and will reaffirm that his backing for Ukraine will continue as long as it takes. UK Prime Minister has welcomed the openness of the United States alongside Europe to provide robust security guarantees to Ukraine as part of any deal. The United Kingdom has stated that this is important progress and will be crucial in deterring Putin from coming back for more. French President Emmanuel Macron said that the goal for Monday's talks in Washington between US President Trump and Ukraine's Zelenskyy is to present a united front between Ukraine and its European allies. He said that there can be no territorial discussion regarding Ukraine without the legitimate, democratically elected leaders of Ukraine.
Au fond, notre volonté demain, c'est de...
Ultimately, our desire tomorrow is to present a united front between Europeans and Ukrainians at this moment of conflict resolution, reaffirming who is on the side of peace, who is on the side of international law. But above all, how can we collectively ensure that the international order is respected and that our collective security is protected because the security of Europeans and France depends on it. There can be no territorial discussion regarding Ukraine without the legitimate, democratically elected leaders of Ukraine. No discussion about Ukraine without the Ukrainians. But in the same way, there can be no discussion about the European security without them.
Même notre pays.
French President Emmanuel Macron has said that Ukraine may ultimately have to recognize the loss of some of its territories as part of a potential peace settlement with Russia. He added that it will not recognize that they are under anyone else's sovereignty, but will recognize their loss through military action. US President Donald Trump could offer NATO-like protection to Ukraine, and Russia is open to the idea, one of his top foreign policy officials said on Sunday ahead of a meeting with Ukraine and European leaders. US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said that Trump and Putin had reached an unexpected understanding that the United States and European allies could extend NATO-style security guarantees to Ukraine. He also added that it was the first time Russia had agreed in principle to such an arrangement.
The United States is potentially prepared to be able to give Article 5 security guarantees, but not from NATO, directly from the United States and other European countries. That is big. I mean, really big.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy hailed US President Donald Trump's historic decision to offer Ukraine security guarantees if a peace deal is reached with Russia, while dismissing suggestions that Kyiv might cede territory to Moscow. European leaders also backed the development. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron praised Trump's apparent willingness to provide guarantees and in fact pledged support for a reassurance force once the hostilities cease. Germany and the European Commission joined Zelenskyy in affirming that borders cannot be redrawn by force. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul on Monday called on stepped-up pressure on Russia, including more aid for Ukraine, to push Moscow into concessions towards a just and lasting peace. Wadephul spoke in Tokyo as US President Donald Trump prepares to host Ukrainian President Zelenskyy and European leaders, including German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The gathering follows Trump's talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Let's get to updates from West Asia now. Massive crowds took to the streets across Israel on Sunday to urge the government end the conflict and also reach a ceasefire deal to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. The protest began on Sunday morning in multiple cities. Demonstrators blocked highways and major routes between cities, bringing traffic to a standstill while holding placards, beating drums and chanting to voice their demands. The largest crowd was seen in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square, with the organizers saying the government's plans to seize control of Gaza City risk the lives of around 20 hostages still being held by Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu slammed the protesters, saying their actions not only harden Hamas's position, it would only slow down the release of the hostages. Israeli President Isaac Herzog met with the family of Bipin Joshi, a Nepalese student who was studying agriculture in Israel when he was abducted by Hamas on October 7, 2023. Bipin's mother and sister were joined in by the meeting by Nepal's ambassador to Israel, Dhan Prasad Pandit. The president offered his support for Bipin's family during the terrible ordeal they are enduring and stressed the urgent need and the humanitarian cause of returning the hostages. Bipin's family thanked Israel and the Israeli president for giving them hope. They also appealed to the international community to make every effort for all the safe return of the hostages. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has ordered his cabinet to prepare a partial step-by-step implementation of the existing agreements with North Korea. Lee did not specify which agreements he was referring to, but the president said that Seoul intends to restore a 2018 agreement that has since fallen apart to suspend some military activity along the border with North Korea. Lee said during a cabinet meeting on Monday that relations between South and North Korea are crucial in order to protect the national interests of South Korea and expand the space to operate diplomatically. Since entering office in June, Lee's government has sought to improve relations between the neighbors, though so far top North Korean officials have dismissed in state media the overtures taken by the Liberal president. Centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz from the Christian Democratic Party was leading in the presidential polls in Bolivia on Sunday. As per the initial results, Paz obtained 32.18% of the votes. The conservative former president, Jorge Correa, from the Free Alliance coalition was in second position with 26.85% of the votes, while Eduardo del Castillo from MAS secured just 3.16%. The results indicate that the elections would be decided in a second round on October 19th if no candidate obtains more than 40% of the votes with a 10 percentage point advantage. The full official results will be reported within 7 days. Voters also elected 26 senators and 130 deputies for Congress. The officials will take office on November 8th. Sunday's general elections were defined by soaring inflation and the exclusion of former leftist President Evo Morales, who was barred from running.
I want to thank, through the homeland, all the men and women who have made it possible, the voice of those who had no voice, of those of us who did not appear in the surveys, of those of us who did not exist. Because what we want is to build the reconciliation of the homeland, the production of the homeland. We want to regain productive strength. We need to stabilize, generate governance, and create a change in the economy so that the economy belongs to the people and not the state.
Around 7 people were shot dead by unknown gunmen at a pool hall in the Ecuadorian city of Santo Domingo on Sunday. Several attackers opened fire on victims at the entrance and inside the hall before fleeing. Local media says the massacre may be linked to organized crime. Ecuador has faced years of growing violence as powerful drug cartels expand their control. Police officials are investigating the incident and hunting for those responsible. President Daniel Noboa's government has promised to crack down on crimes. However, there has been little reduction in the violence in past years. In Nigeria, more than 40 people have gone missing after a boat capsized in northwestern Sokoto state on Sunday. The National Emergency Management Agency said in a statement that the boat, which was carrying more than 50 passengers to a market, capsized early morning. As of now, about 10 people have been rescued, while more than 40 passengers remain missing. Boat accidents are common on Nigeria's waterways due to overcrowding and poor maintenance, particularly during the annual rainy season. The closing submissions in a national security trial against Hong Kong pro-democracy businessman Jimmy Lai recommenced on Monday after his lawyer said that he had suffered heart palpitations. The court had adjourned to allow Lai, a British citizen, to obtain medication and a heart monitor. The 77-year-old has been held in solitary confinement for more than 1,700 days, with his son previously raising concerns over his deteriorating health. Lai, who founded the Apple Daily newspaper that was forced to close after a police raid and asset freeze in June 2021, has pleaded not guilty to 2 charges of conspiracy to collude with foreign forces and a charge of conspiracy to publish seditious material. His national security trial began in December 2023. Air Canada on Sunday suspended its plan to resume flights over a strike by flight attendants that has effectively shut down the airline and snarled summer travel for its passengers around the world. The announcement came despite the country's Industrial Relations Board ordering an end to the strike by around 10,000 flight attendants, which had prompted the airline to say it would resume flying on Sunday. The flag carrier, in a statement, said the airline will resume flights from Monday evening. The Canadian Union of Public Employees, which is representing the workers, sought wage increase as well as to address uncompensated ground work, including during the boarding process. In a statement on Sunday, CUPE's Air Canada unit said the strikes would continue. The union urged passengers not to go to the airport if they had a ticket to Air Canada or its lower-cost subsidiary Air Canada route. CUPE earlier slammed the Canadian government's intervention as rewarding Air Canada's refusal to negotiate fairly by giving them exactly what they wanted. A large fire broke out in a petroleum and oil storage facility in southern Tehran on Sunday. As of now, no casualties have been reported. It is unclear how the fire broke out. However, the investigation is underway to detect the cause of the fire. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. A light plane was forced to make an emergency crash landing on a golf course in Sydney on Sunday after the aircraft lost power. Both the occupants, an instructor and a trainee pilot, escaped with minor injuries, and no bystanders were harmed at the busy Mona Vale Golf Club. An Australian court fined national carrier Qantas $59 million on Monday for illegally laying off 1,800 ground staff during the COVID pandemic. Justice Michael Lee handed down his decision on the airline's penalty in the federal court in New South Wales. Justice Lee said that he wanted the fine to act as a real deterrence to other employers. The decision comes about 9 months after Qantas and the Transport Workers Union agreed on a $120 million payout for the sacked workers. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us for a quick roundup on the massive devastation caused by wildfires across Europe. Heavy damage reported to infrastructure in 2 separate incidents of cloudbursts in Jammu and Kashmir. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will arrive in New Delhi on a 2-day visit to India from Monday. Member of the Politburo of the Communist Party of China, and the Chinese Foreign Minister is visiting India at the invitation of National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. During his visit, Wang Yi will hold the 24th round of Special Representatives talks on the India-China boundary question with India's Special Representatives, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will also hold a bilateral meeting with his Chinese counterpart in New Delhi. Hurricane Erin, the first major storm of an anticipated intense Atlantic season, re-strengthened into a Category 4 hurricane late on Sunday with maximum sustained winds of 215 kilometers per hour. Located 130 miles east of Grand Turk Island, Erin is expected to pass northeast of the Turks and Caicos and southeastern Bahamas by Monday, bringing heavy rains, flash floods and landslides. The National Hurricane Center warns of up to 6 inches of rain and life-threatening surf along the Bahamas, Bermuda and the US East Coast. Rapid intensification linked to climate change underscores Erin's danger as it grows larger, remaining a major hurricane through the midweek. Meanwhile, Europe is on the track for worst wildfire season on record amid deadly heat waves. Spain is battling 20 major wildfires fueled by extreme heat exceeding 40 degrees Celsius and strong winds darkening skies with thick smoke in Asturias and complicating firefighting efforts. The blazes, among southern Europe's worst in 20 years, have killed 7 people and scorched hectares of land almost the size of London. Spain's State Meteorological Agency has issued extreme fire risk alerts for Spain's north and west. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, visiting Galicia, warned of difficult days ahead. As Spain enters its 3rd week of heatwave alerts, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has announced a national pact for climate emergency.
tenemos que hacer una reflexión de fondo.
We need to make a fundamental consideration, a strategy that anticipates a better response, one that is more protective and more secure for our fellow citizens in the face of the worsening and accelerating effects of the climate emergency in our country. And that requires a major national pact, a national pact on the climate emergency that leaves the climate emergency out of the partisan struggles and ideological issues so that we can focus on the scientific evidence and act accordingly. The clear answer to having fires of this magnitude now, to having cold drops like we are having in autumn or winter, is that the climate emergency ravaging the world is accelerating, becoming more serious and more frequent.
Es que la emergencia climática que asola el mundo.
Satellite images from August 15 released on Sunday revealed massive wildfires scorching Portugal with thick smoke plumes rising over Piedade, Cerdeira and Corgus. The Institute of National Conservation and Forest reports that 155,000 hectares have burnt this year, 3 times the 2006 to 2024 average, with half of that devastation occurring in the past 3 days. Fueled by extreme heat and winds, 8 major fires rage in central and northern Portugal, the largest near Piedade, a popular tourist destination. Over 4,000 firefighters are deployed, supported by water-carrying helicopters. The government extended a national alert as conditions worsen, with dry thunderstorms forecast. Portugal ranks 3rd in the European Union for burned areas, behind Spain and Romania. Relatives gathered outside a morgue in Bunair on Sunday to receive the bodies of the victims of deadly flooding in northwestern Pakistan. As per the National Disaster Management Authority, the death toll from the rains across the mountainous north of Pakistan had risen to at least 337 people, with most killed in flash floods. In Bunair, 207 lives were lost and others are still missing. Bunair was hit by a cloudburst, a rare phenomenon where more than 100 millimeters of rain fell within an hour in a small area. Officials stated more heavy rain was expected across Pakistan until early September. In 2 separate incidents of cloudburst early on Sunday in 2 villages of Katwa district of Jammu and Kashmir, 7 members of 4 families, including 5 children, were killed. Heavy damage took place to the physical infrastructure, including residential houses. The calamity struck Jodh Ghati village of Rajbagh and Bagra village of Janglot amid heavy overnight rains in the district. This led to increase in the level of water bodies and submerging many low-lying areas. The army has evacuated 6 injured persons to MH Hospital Pathankot from Jodh Ghati, while 2 injured are undergoing treatment at JMC Katwa. Army columns on the ground in Katwa are rescuing families, giving hope, food and care after the cloudburst. The cloudburst in Katwa came 3 days after flash floods triggered by cloudburst struck Chashoti village in Kishtwar district on August 14th, leaving 61 people dead and more than 100 injured. The rescue and relief operations are going on war-footing basis at both Katwa and Kishtwar, with administration pressing into service all available resources for the job. The weather office has forecast light to moderate rains and thunder showers at many places, with intense showers or heavy rains at few places in Jammu division till August 19th. The government has also announced closure of schools for today across the Jammu division. In continuation with the relief operations at Kishtwar's Chishoti village, the troops of White Knight Corps have intensified rescue and relief efforts. Engineer bridging teams of the White Knight Corps, along with equipment, have started construction of bridge at the site of Chishoti Nala. The bridge will restore connectivity and help in speeding up evacuation in close coordination with civil agencies. Functionaries of the Indian Army at various levels are monitoring the relief operations on ground. Synergistic efforts in concert with civilian agencies is aimed at maximizing savings of lives and immediate provision of relief to those in need. Let's talk of sports now. In football, East Bengal and Diamond Harbour FC have booked their spot in the semi-finals of the Durand Cup 2025. East Bengal defeated arch rivals Mohun Bagan Supergiant 2-1 in Kolkata. Greek striker Dimitrios Diamantakos came off the bench to score both goals and seal the win. The 16-time Durand Cup champions will now face debutants Diamond Harbour FC in the semi-finals. Diamond Harbour secured a huge upset beating home side Jamshedpur FC 2-0 to storm into the semi-finals. Bihar is set to host the 12th edition of the Men's Asia Cup, which will take place from August 29 to September 7th at the newly developed Rajgir Hockey Stadium. The event will feature the top 6 teams from Asia, including hosts India, the two nations that have qualified through the AHF Cup. Defending champion South Korea are the most successful side in the event's history with 5 titles, while India has lifted the trophy 3 times. The Asia Cup will also offer a direct qualification berth for FIH Men's Hockey World Cup 2026 to be hosted by Belgium and the Netherlands. And the stage is all set in Cincinnati. World number 1 Yannick Sinner and Spanish sensation Carlos Alcaraz face off yet again in the final. Alcaraz and Sinner are ready to write another thrilling chapter in their careers. From Wimbledon to Cincinnati, their rivalry is rewriting the script of modern tennis. In women's singles, Iga Swiatek reached the final of Cincinnati Open for the first time in her career with a win over Elena Rybakina. Rybakina took an early lead. However, the Wimbledon champion won 10 out of the last 13 games to secure a 4th straight win against Rybakina. Swiatek has now reached the final in the 3 of her last 4 tournaments played. She will face 7th seed Jasmine Paolini in the final as she seeks an 11th career WTA 1000 title. Paolini reached the final after claiming a hard-fought victory against Russia's Veronika Kudermetova. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.